Going. And live here. Okay, welcome to Bridges Live. You are on the show. You be the judge. So we have Marylin, Pierre, Esquire, and Dr. Paul. We like to talk about things that affect you in the legal system. And boy, are we affected all the time by the legal system. Whether we know it or not, we are affected. And and I think that's the saddest issue for people is that we don't know how much we are affected until we're in that situation. Don't you agree with that, Marilyn?
Oh, I definitely agree with that. And many times by that time, it's too late.
And that's the I think that's the problem with our legal system is for us as non-attorneys, we don't really understand it as much we ought to. So we get confused when you see some of these things that happen on TV. Is so let's ask a simple question from a layman. Is TV a good representation of what we could be doing and not doing when it comes to getting pulled over by the police and the court and all that stuff? Or do you watch it and just shake your head and go like, it's nothing like that?
It depends because one of my favorite movies is The Hate You Give. Have you seen that movie?
No, no, I haven't.
Yeah, it's from a line by, oh my gosh, Tupac. Yeah,
Right.
Tupac Shakur.
Yeah.
It and the depiction in that movie in terms of the police stop and things of that sort, I thought that was very realistic. Tragic, but realistic.
So what about these local TV shows? I mean, I remember watching the first TV show with, you have Law and Order, and then you have LA Law. That's how old I am.
I remember LA Law too, but I remember it mostly because of the characters rather than the cases themselves.
But when it comes to those things, so like, you know, when it comes to warrants and getting when when the police pull you over, it is a huge intimidation issue for us civilians.
Mhm.
And then if we feel like right will prevail, is that always the case that you find that right will prevail? And so if I tell the truth right now, it would help me in the long run? Or how do we basically how should we proceed?
Well, I think those are two different things because the
Okay.
police does not need a, well, they don't need a warrant. The police do not need a warrant to pull you over because the reason why the police would pull someone over would be that they saw them do something that is, well, that they should not have done, or they saw something that they want to inquire more into. So at that point, there's no need for a warrant. And actually, there's not even any time for a warrant.
So, but when it comes to us, so I'm driving, I get pulled over, and if anyone asks any questions, you can please put a question up here on either on YouTube, on the YouTube channel, or even on the Facebook, or even on Instagram or Twitter. If you have a question, just please put in the question when it comes to a legal question. So when we get pulled over, and we're like, I did nothing wrong, and they ask us a question, how like that's probably where we get jammed up is do we just answer or is that going to be used against us and like so that's the confusing part.
So much of it depends on the situation because, well, because the police basically they pulled you, well, they pulled someone over because they think that something has gone, well, something is amiss, let's put it that way.
Right.
And so if something is amiss, as in terms of what is being sought on the side of the police, then people might not want to volunteer any information unless they think that they could clear up whatever that is amiss. like for instance, if you get pulled over for uh, a tag expiration or something like that, and
Okay.
the police officer says, "Hey, did you know that your tag was expired?" And then you say, "Oh my goodness, thank you very much for bringing that out for me. I know I received the notice, I put it aside, and it didn't occur. It has not been on my schedule yet to get it done, but and then you get a citation and the police officer says, get that cleared up as soon as possible. You get it cleared up, and you know whether or not you want a hearing based on that, it's up to you. But something as simple as that, then but sometimes it's more serious. And when you're stopped, you're not really sure which one it is. Is it something more serious, or is it something, simple? Well, as simple as these things could get. I understand the fear of no matter what it is, no matter how simple it is, there's still
Right.
that intimidation factor. There's still that fear of the unknown or what might happen in that situation.
Because I tell you, I've been pulled over, and it seems like they're just there to check me out, like to make sure that I am. I don't even know. I've been pulled over, and I was taught not to ask because
Mhm.
that's challenging authority. Like, why'd you pull me over, officer? I was taught, don't do that, because they say, well, you're allowed to do that. Well, I have known people who have done that, and it turns into a battle of, well, why are you asking me questions? And it's my right, and then it becomes a thing, right? So I didn't ask, and he says, "Can I see your license and registration?" I'm thinking to myself, man, is he going to tell me? And he just asked for my license and registration. So I said, "Can I have my hands up?" And I said, "Well, my license and registrations is in my glove compartment. Can I go get it?" And he says, "Well, where is in the glove compartment?" I'm like, I don't know. I don't want to move. I don't want to, do anything. And I'm just like, I'm like trying not to make any big sudden movements, like to
Uh,
scare the big bird away or something, you know what I mean? So I'm like, the glove compartment over there, and he's like, all right, go ahead. And then I reached over, and then it
Very
popped.
slowly, because you
Right.
don't want to be accused of making a furtive movement. Yeah.
Yeah. And please explain that. What does that mean? Like, what is it? That isn't that an interpretation?
That is. And the courts have basically said that the way the police interpret it is the way they interpret it, and they're really not going to delve that deeply into that.
Okay.
Which is why, when you and I had that discussion about whether or not you should have your paperwork with you, I said have your paperwork with you because you want to make sure that your hands are always seen by the police officer and always on the wheel with with your driver's license and your registration and whatever else that you think might be required. And I know it's a huge guessing game. I know you sort of like have to be able to predict the future and predict who is going to be asking you these questions and what their motives are. But unfortunately, that's where sometimes we find ourselves in that situation. And also what happens in terms of police officers too is sometimes they don't know what to expect. And that's really where the nervousness comes in on both sides. And sometimes there's so many tragic consequences from that. I know that some of the uh, things that I've been advised as a woman is, never, if you get pulled over, well, if a police officer is trying to pull you over, make sure you go someplace where there are people around, because there have been police officers or people wearing badges, let's put it that way, people wearing badges, driving cars that are paid by the taxpayers, who have pulled women over. I've never heard of a man, but I would not be surprised if that happens to men as well, where people get pulled over, they get asked for favors, for them to be released without any thing happening. So we were always told, okay, make sure you drive some, if you're getting pulled over, drive very, very slowly, to some place, and the reason why you're driving slowly is because you want the police officer to know that you're not, yeah, you're not trying to abscond. That's a word that, is used often. It's like the person
So,
was
so
abscond, they were
a
just
real
trying to
quick,
get someplace with lights and people around.
a real quick question, men or women, and I think that's a great advice for women.
Mhm.
But how slow is slow enough? And how slow can a man do the same thing so things don't appear only on one side? So they want to
Mhm.
get to a public place. So, like, and how far can this go on without them getting quite hostile?
Yeah, because that is an issue as well.
Right,
Because
right.
somebody might be like, yeah, well, I would say the next exit, if that's possible. And then you're hoping that there's a gas station or something 24 hours depending on the time of day, where you might find a gas station or somebody around who could then be around just in case. It's a shame that we have to have those bad apples, you might say, who make us think that it's necessary to protect yourself from the police. But unfortunately, sometimes that happens, whether you're a man who might be accused of making a furtive movement to the point where the police officer feels like his or her life is in danger, or a woman who feels that she might not be safe if she doesn't go someplace where there are more people around than the dark, you
So
know, um, corner that she was made to stop at.
I just want to let people know you're watching You Be the Judge. I'm Dr. Paul Dyer, and this is Marylin Pierre, Esquire, attorney at law. She's been practicing law for decades now. And we like to go over situations and talk about legal matters that helps the public be more informed. And I'm asking the question of basically right now, it's how to get pulled over. What's the safest way of getting pulled over? And what can we say? What is a good thing to say? And what's beneficial, because we want, when it comes to safety, right? Safety for the officer, safety for
Mhm.
civilians, it should be synonymous. We're all looking for the same thing. Unless you're a bad
Yes.
person, then you want bad things to happen. But
Mhm.
good people do want good things to happen, and people have been harmed because of a missed perception,
That
right?
is correct.
And I don't know. We're trying to figure out this is not a foolproof way. Don't say
No.
I heard this on You Be the Judge with Dr. Paul and Marylin, and they said if you do it this way, I won't get shot. I won't get kicked in the teeth. I won't get my neck kneeled on. This is, but let's try to do this as best as we can, if
Mhm.
that makes sense. So after I gave him my license and registration, he said, I'll be right back.
Mhm.
And I'm thinking, still don't know what's going on.
Mhm.
I don't know why he pulled me over. I know what time it is, and I'm trying to think, should I call someone? But I don't want to make any sudden moves because my cell phone is on the seat. So now I'm thinking if I I'm looking at the cell phone going, if I get the cell phone and he sees me, he might just think something isn't right.
Yes.
So I am waiting. I'm looking in the side view mirror. I don't want to even because as soon as I get pulled over, I always turn off the radio. Right.
Mhm.
I'm looking in the rear view mirror, the side view mirror, and I'm looking at the cell phone. It's like I'm in a conundrum. I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. Do I get the cell phone? Do I stay? Do I keep my hands? What what am I supposed to do? So he comes back. He says, "Thank you. Have a good night."
Really?
To this day, still don't know why. That was our incident.
Mhm.
Don't know who he was. Don't know
Mhm.
why. Don't know anything. Now that's perplexing to me. Now
That is.
what
To me too.
it's like, it's obviously okay
Mhm.
for him to do that, but why is it okay?
It depends. I'm not sure if it's okay for him to do that. And the reason why I say that is because police officers are not supposed to just stop civilians like you talked about just to be stopping them. I mean, they have to be able to give a reason. And we,
But couldn't they give the reason? Like, okay, so if I asked,
mhm,
officer, why'd you pull me over? His reason is whatever he says.
mhm.
It doesn't even have to be right.
Well, that's true. And sometimes you get a reason like, oh, well, this just happened.
Right.
And so we're looking for somebody who
Looks just like you.
might have been driving a car like yours,
Yep.
somebody who might look like you. So the reason many times is not satisfying at all.
No.
Mm. So I could agree with that. But I mean, I would say at least a bit of courtesy, it's like would be helpful. Hey, I stopped you because I I wanted to let you know that this is was what was happening in the area, and I thought you might know something. I mean, just anything.
I think I think we're in a time, we have been in a time that there's a lot of animosity
Hmm.
between, and it has turned into an us and them. And whoever is feeling that way, whether it be the civilian side or the police officer side, it has turned into an us and them. And now that creates high tension. And I don't know how we, between an us or them, no matter what side you're on, could ever. How does this tension get broken? Because
Yeah.
it's built,
I've
it's built high.
always well, I've always thought that there was that tension there. I think that now there's more discussion. Now there with camcorders, that shows you how old I am. With with cell phones, with camera phones. Sorry. Oh my God, goodness, what am I doing today?
You're
With
telling on
camera
yourself.
phones,
That's how
yeah.
old you are. You're telling.
Yeah, exactly. There are all kinds of things that could happen. So we are able to see some of what happens at some of those stops. As a matter of fact, what some people do, especially the young people, what they do is they get stopped, they get their things out, and then they have their camera phone turned on. And that's not something that I would even think about, being that, like I said, I'm a bit older than that. And so I didn't grow up in that age, but they grew up in that age, and that's how they feel like they can protect themselves. And there's nothing wrong with that.
Well, I know because I have an iPhone. I did trigger the app
Mhm.
or the settings where you can say you got pulled over. So it sends the location to someone you want to know. It starts a video camera. It just sends all these different messages of where you at, what's and where you at, the location of where you at, and then the camera turns on. So now it's recording the voice and the video.
Mhm.
Now I don't know if Android phones could do that. Maybe you can download an app. I don't know, but I know the iPhone you can set those settings to do that.
Oh, that is kind of interesting. What is that app called?
It's actually not an app. It's in
Mm.
your phone. It's a shortcut settings to your voice. So it's almost like asking Siri to do something. So
Interesting.
yeah,
Uh,
you
it, uh, Interesting. I know that when I was the legal redress attorney for the Montgomery County NAACP, Montgomery County branch of the NAACP, I received a lot of these calls. Hey, I got stopped by the police, and this is what happened, and da 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 da. And I would always ask, "Do you know anything about the police officer? Do you have the badge number? Do you have the car number? Do you have any number of any sort?" And I would be told no. And and I'm not sure I would advise someone to ask the police officer for his or her badge number. It would be nice if you could read it off of the badge without them noticing. But some police officers might take that as a challenge to their authority, and that might not end so well. And like I said, our whole point is to try to make sure that people get home safely on both sides, because if this could be considered an uneventful event that did not make the news, that could be considered a win. And so if you don't know that information, then what you could do is just call the local precinct and describe the police officer to them and say, hey, I was in such and such a place at such and such a time. The sooner you can do it to when it happened, the more likely you are that somebody's going to be able to figure out who that police officer is. I was in such and such a place at such and such a time, and this is what the police officer looked like. Can you tell me how I could find out who that police officer is, what that police officer's badge number is? And the reason why you want that information is because you might want to follow up. You might want to say, hey, I'm writing because I want to find out what happened. Why did you pull me over? And it might even go to internal affairs. And the reason why I tell people to do those kinds of things is because we have to make a record. And if certain police officers are just pulling people over just because they want to pull people over, then maybe they're like, oh, okay, well, you only pull certain people over, or you only pull people from certain neighborhoods over. Why is that? And that would be helpful in terms of training that police officer. Why are you doing that? What is it about these people? What is it about this neighborhood that makes you feel like these people should be pulled over?
And when it comes to that, so like now that you're say, so now let me put it in another content. I have been in jail, or I have been in trouble with a police officer. Mm-hmm. And that's on the thing they pull up, right? In the car?
Yes.
What if now, whatever reason they pulled me over, say it's a traffic violation. I did, it's a traffic violation. They get my license and registration. And then now they see that I have been whatever, right? Mm-hmm. What can they now search the car? I mean, is it now they come back to the car and they say, well, do you mind if I search the car? What is now the conversation?
Okay. Well, if the person who gets pulled over has been in jail or has some other reasons why they don't want to be involved with the police, then the police has to show that there's a reason to search their car now. Because let's say you're on probation or something like that. Well, just because you run to a traffic light or you don't stop at a stop sign doesn't mean that that the police has a right to search your car. Because first of all, even if that's a violation of your probation, because that's you not following the law, it doesn't mean you've been convicted yet. It's only when you've been convicted of that crime, then it shows that you have violated your probation. So at the point that you're stopped, you are not guilty of anything yet.
And that just makes me nervous, and I haven't been convicted of anything to be worried. It just seems like it just creates this huge tension. Like so then you have the questions. What, you don't want me to search your car? What are you trying to hide, Paul? And I'm like, I'm not trying to hide anything. Well, and then so it becomes this thing, right? And now is it one of those ploys to rile you up? So then they're able to pull you out of your car. They say, can you step out of your car now? Right? And once they ask you to step out of the car, can they search the body then?
Well, they haven't said why it is that they feel that you've done something. So they should not be able to search anything until you give them permission to search you or your vehicle. And I'm talking, because sometimes you have some friends in the car who think that they're being helpful by trying to, tell you what your rights are.
Right.
And sometimes that could be more harmful than not. So if you have some friends in the car, please tell the friends to be quiet and, and cooperate. And I would just talk in as calm of a voice as I can. Why am I being pulled over, officer? What is it that you're looking for, officer? Are you sure you have the right person, officer? And always address the person as officer. And if you could even ask your name, officer, what is your name? So that way you could say Officer Jones. But if everybody could keep a clear head and make sure that an even tone is used. And I know how petrifying it is, how scary it is to get pulled over, and how everything that we've ever heard about all these bad stops are now going in our heads at the speed of light. Yeah, so I understand all of that. It's really easy for me to sit down here in my nice calm area and talk about, yes, you have to keep calm, but as much as you can, try to keep calm. And if you have a phone with you, you could even call that the nearest police station and say, okay, I've got stopped. I don't know why. Can you, and the officer will not tell me why. Could you tell me what was written in the report or something like that?
Okay, so let's, before we can get to the phone, I don't think I am putting myself in this situation, and I don't think a cop's gonna let me get to my phone. So let me, before I get out of the car, the question is, should I get out of the car?
Well, if the police officer says to get out of your car, then yes, you should get out of your car.
Okay.
Whether it's legal or not, that's not the time to be arguing that point.
Okay.
Because what happens is that later on, if the police officer finds something in there that they're not supposed to, that you didn't want them to find, then you could argue that this was an improper search because you never gave consent.
Okay. Now,
so one of the things that someone who gets stopped, well, not you, Dr. Dyer, but one of the things that happens when someone gets stopped is, you're right, there is a lot of pressure to get that person to consent to a search. And the reason for that is because they know that unless there is a consent, it's very likely that whatever they find is going to be thrown out. Because they could only search the car if they have a warrant, which we talked about. They don't have one because
right.
What time did they have to run to a judge to get one? So that's number one. If they have an emergency situation, well, what's the emergency situation? Do you see anybody in the car who looks like they're under some sort of distress, or do they look like they've been kidnapped or are somehow being victimized? That's an emergency situation. Or the third one, do you see anything in plain sight? So if there aren't these three circumstances there, then they need consent, and that's why they push so hard to try to get that consent.
So, but you're not a police. I am not a police officer, so I don't know what they think they see and what they think is probable. Like, well, my cigarette butts, whatever, or I smoke non-filtered cigarettes. Now they think whatever they think what they think. I know it's tobacco. They believe it's pot. So now, okay.
Well, with the decriminalization of marijuana in some states, not all states, and I want to make sure, especially young people, are very, very careful with that. It's not legalization, it's decriminalization. And the reason for that is because it's still illegal at the federal level, so the states cannot legalize it. They could only decriminalize certain amounts of it. And also, just because it's decriminalized doesn't mean that it is allowed everywhere and it will not affect your future. And in the sense that there are lots of agencies and lots of companies around our area where you have to have a certain clearance in order to be employed. And if you don't have that clearance because of a marijuana charge or something like that, even at the state level, it's sad, but I've seen that happen. Or you go over the bridge into Virginia or someplace like that where they don't have it decriminalized, and oh my goodness, that's definitely a criminal charge. So if just to go back to your point, if it is in plain sight, then you could ask them to just pick it up. See, it's tobacco, it's not marijuana, and that it might end up right there. Or even if it is marijuana, if you're in the state of Maryland in a place where it's decriminalized, you could say, well, that doesn't amount to that's not enough for, that's not over the 14 ounces. Is it 10 ounces or 14 ounces? I forgot.
You're asking the wrong person because I have no idea.
Yeah, so yeah, that's not over the amount that is required for you to charge me with it. So there's all of that. And like I said, that's why they push so hard on consent. So if you just say no, 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 and sometimes if they see something like that, they might even call and say, okay, we're bringing the dogs over. I've heard of that before, where they then have the dogs come in and the dogs sniff to see if it's marijuana.
So, okay, so I'm out of the car.
Mm-hmm.
I don't give consent, and he says, can I pat you down? And they normally say for their safety in case you have any sharp objects on you. Yeah. Is that still a pat down, or is that a safety search for them? Because I've heard it called, like, do you mind if I give a safety search because I don't want to get cut by anything or whatever? And you say okay, so now you give them the okay to search you. Is that correct? But if you say no,
then they're going to search you anyway. So and they are going to put it in the guise of, oh, I want to be safe. I don't know what you have on you, and you telling me you don't have anything on you, but I just need to verify it.
Right.
Yeah.
So now you're not going to argue now. Like, no, I'm not going to argue.
This is not the time to argue.
But I am not giving consent for the search. Do you say it out loud, or you don't have to?
Oh, you should say it out loud.
Okay.
Or even if you know you have nothing on you, you could just say, well, I give you permission to pat me down just to verify that I don't have any weapons on me that's going to harm you, but you still can't search my car.
Okay. Okay. Now, how? I think for us civilians, we believe that that's where it ends. I don't give consent, then they will have to. So can they take me now? They haven't charged me. They can take me. They can detain me.
They can detain you.
Okay, and they can impound the car.
Yes.
Okay, so in the impound, can they then search the car in the impound lot?
They need a warrant for that.
Okay, so they detain me.
Maybe. And I want to say at this point that that police officer must really think there's something in there, because checking you and putting you in custody and then getting a warrant for your car to search your car, at that point, that involves other resources. And so if it's something that is being done regularly by that police officer, I think that police officer is going to get a talking to by his or her supervisor, because instead of resources being pulled towards protecting the community, resources are now being pulled towards something that really was not harming the community. And once or twice that happening, that might not be an issue, but if that's a constant thing, then first of all, if a judge keeps signing warrants for something that's not there, then there's going to be that issue. Well, why is it that you keep pulling these people over thinking that they have something and they have nothing?
So, but basically, so right now you're all things are clean. Now it's just your personal hassle. Is that what that's what this is trying? Because they bring me down, they don't
Mhm.
charge me, and they can hold me for how long, or can I make a phone call at that time? Like what's
Oh yeah, well, it depends because now the police officer, I'm sorry, now the police have been given some leeway in terms of they don't have to charge you for 48 hours. I'm trying to, okay, yeah, for 48
okay?
hours. And so during that time, they could then try to get evidence against you. They
So
you're not
there's no.
able,
Let's get this straight. There's no bail because I haven't been charged.
yes, uh-huh. Well,
I'm
you are in custody, but you have not been charged. Yes.
so I can be just be held there for 2 days.
Yeah. Hmm.
Can I make it? Do I get a phone call? Am I
Yes.
allowed to call?
Yes.
Okay, so you
Because you've
call.
got a right to, even though they don't have to give you your Miranda rights at that point. So because you haven't been arrested, you've
Right.
been you are in custody, but you have not been arrested. And to many people, it looks the same because it is the same, but your rights are different. And so, since you have not been arrested, they do not have to give you your Miranda rights. So anything that you say can and will be held against you because what if at trial you try the person tries to get, I keep saying you, I'm sorry, that's why. It's
No,
like,
it's fine.
if the person tries to get that dismissed, they're going to argue that you were not arrested, you were in custody but you were not arrested, so therefore they did not have to give you your Miranda rights.
Okay, so I make a phone call. I call you
Hmm.
because I gotta call you because there's no other. I mean, so I call you and I just say I'm probably crying at this point. Like Marilyn, I don't know what's going on. I'm in jail and I don't and they haven't told me anything.
Hmm.
I tell you what station I'm at if I know. Hopefully
Hmm.
I'll know. And now what? Now I just have to wait. Is what you're saying?
Yeah, now you just have to wait. Your lawyer could come down there and then start asking questions. Why do you have, my client over here? What are you looking for? Is there something that we could do to help you find it?
And I
And of course, they don't have to answer anything. They could
and
just
I
say, we're holding your client because we think that, there's a reason to hold him and we're just doing our work.
so now let's tally this up.
Mhm.
My car's impounded, so now I'm going to pay a 2-day impound fee. I
I'm not sure because they impounded your car. So it's not at the local storage place. It's at the police impound.
oh so
Yeah, they're not going to bring it to the local storage place and have it held there because that means that it's no longer in their custody. The car is no longer in their custody. So if they do find evidence there, there's going to be an issue as to when the evidence got there and how.
okay, so but now we do. So I don't. Do you know if we pay it? They don't charge us at the police impound, as far as you know.
No, because the car is being held for evidence.
Okay,
Mhm.
okay. So if I'm working for 2 days, I'm probably not. There's an issue there at work. There's an
There's
issue.
a huge issue because you might not even be able to call your employer to say, oh, by the way,
Right.
I can't come to work in the next 2 days. And you hope that even if you are, they don't ask where you are, because if they ask where you are and you say, well, I'm at the police station and lock up, it's like, oh,
Right.
what the next question is, what did you do?
Right.
Yeah, and of course you can't answer anything, or I'm sorry, you shouldn't answer anything because sometimes some of the conversation is being recorded.
Okay, thanks. I didn't know that. So that's see, there's you people. I'm telling you, I do these. I'm learning so much, but I do this because I have been, many people I know have been in situations that it just doesn't seem to come out because we don't know how this game is being played. And I'm telling you now, I did not know. I learned like about 6 different things today. Um, so here's so your car, your job. I have to pay you. You have to get paid. So there's a
Yeah.
fee there,
Mhm.
right? There's
Your children, because let's say you had to pick up your child from childcare or something like that, and you don't show up. So the childcare provider is like, this, I called, this person and he didn't show up to pick up his child, and now I don't know what to do with this child because, there's no one else that I could call today. Then call social services and say, hey, we
right.
have this child whose parent didn't come pick him or her up.
So
Yeah.
all this is going on in my emotional mind
Mhm.
as I'm being stopped. So I say to myself, let me comply so my car doesn't get impounded. I can go to work, I can pick up my children, and I don't have to be detained for 48 hours for no reason because I really don't have anything.
Mhm.
So I comply, and yet it still goes sideways. I,
Yeah.
it seems tough to swallow, Marilyn. It just does.
It is. It is. I mean, it really, really is tough to swallow, but unfortunately, this is where we are. Yeah. The good thing is that the overwhelming majority of these stops are mainly, well, I wouldn't say uneventful because it is eventful for the person who is stopped and even for the police officer stopping that person. But in terms of having these consequences, they're not as likely as they do happen, and they do happen more frequently than they should, but we keep hoping for the best.
So listen, people. To keep safe, no confrontation is the best way, and don't give the okay legally. Is that in that is that short enough, Marilyn, or is it something a little bit
Yeah,
more?
because if you give consent, then they could search whatever they want. But if you don't give consent, then they're going to have to find some other way of looking in there if they really, really think it's necessary. And
And
many times they would say, okay, fine, I don't have, you know, it's not worth bothering. But sometimes, like I said, they will call the police dogs and say, hey, I need a police dog over here. Could you come and smell this?
because I have seen so many videos. I'm not, and one's too much.
Mhm.
When a person got out of the car, didn't want to get out of the car, the police opened the car door. He says, "Well, I'm just not getting out," and the cop says, "You're getting out of this car." He says,
Mhm.
I'm not getting out. I did nothing wrong." So the cop pulls him out. So now it turns into a thing because he doesn't want to get out of the car, so he's holding the steering wheel. So now it turns into a battle. So when the cop does get him outside, it becomes a thing. He's roughing him up, he's handcuffing him, and it turns into a man. Now he probably won't didn't get charged. He probably nothing ever happened. I mean, like he probably didn't get charged, but he got bruised, he got beaten, he got detained for what? Like, what did I do? Like, I don't want to say, is it driving while black is just too much of a problem? Or because I didn't give you my consent, now you feel challenged. And we should not have to understand that who are we speaking to what person in his or her uniform and what they're going through
Mhm. Mhm.
and bring it to the job. And you don't know what I'm going through. I could be having a bad day.
Yeah. Mm.
My boss could have just chewed me out or let me. What doesn't matter. I'm having not a good day, and now I'm like, so why'd you pull me over? And it comes out, my smirky face, or I'm frowning, and it's like now it's just too much. It's too much.
Yeah. And Also adrenaline and all those kinds of things. Oh my gosh. I mean, all of that plays into it. It's which is why I emphasize, calmness, because you're hoping that if somebody's adrenaline is pumping too quickly, maybe the other person could calm that person down, and we could all go home and say, okay, this was an unfortunate event, but we both survived it, and hopefully we could get past it.
I thank you so much, Marilyn, because like I said, I've learned so much. I know people are learning a lot. And today is a good day. The electoral college was verified, right?
Yes.
So we have a president, not a president. I think it gets certified January 7th. Is that right? It gets certified. They voted,
Hmm.
but it gets the vote gets certified on the 7th. It's just
Yes.
what a funny system we live in. Uh,
Yeah, and we keep talking about how we've got two senators who haven't been voted in yet, but I think they're saying that they're still counting in Alaska.
yes.
And so, yeah, so we actually have four, except that they think that the ones in Alaska are definitely going to be Republican. So, yeah, they're not talking about that. But we've got a president elect, and a president. It's only been a couple of days. I find it really disheartening in terms of the death penalty, you know, cases that have been going on and the people who have been put to death. We have what, three more coming up, and
Yep.
before the next president gets sworn in.
What do you think about that?
Well, I find it really interesting that a party that talks so much about right to life and making sure that every life counts and all that kind of stuff, then turns around and you know kills all these people, and it just seems like they're doing it so
That.
quickly just to get it done before before their power runs out. And it's sad to me. You can't say, hey, I believe in the right to life, except if you do something wrong. And also these cases are so suspect in
That's
terms
so
of,
that's the thing. For me, the death penalty doesn't bother me. It's the cases that are suspect.
Mhm.
That bothers me because if you have to turn your head and go, really? Huh? And I'm not even digging in the case, if it's that suspect, I don't think they should be put to death. That's my opinion. I'm allowed, but
Well, I think that, to me, it's helpful to be consistent. If you believe in the right to life, then you should not say it's okay for the state to put someone to death. That doesn't make any sense to me. And it also goes to, well, if you believe in the right to life, then give the people who you're saving the best possible chance at life. Give prenatal care, give insurance so that people can
can.
healthy babies, and those babies could then thrive because they don't have to worry about food, shelter, and warmth. And it just seems so incongruous to me that so many people are able to hang on to the one thing that they want to hang over other people's heads and just forget about the rest, in terms of whether that should follows what they claim is their core belief.
I'm going to write a piece of paper soon about rear view mirror view. I think so many people move forward by looking in the rear view mirror, right? And I don't know.
Interesting.
That's just if you metaphorically, who drives that way? Absolutely no one. But
Mhm.
somehow people live their lives by looking in the rear view mirror of someone's past.
Yes.
Like, this is what they are, this is who they were, and this is and they keep pushing that as they're moving forward. And I don't know how we are ever going to get past this tension we even talked about if we keep living in a rearview mirror. So
Hmm. Hmm.
I,
Yeah. No, I was just thinking in terms of what you say, because you're right. If the person who is stopped has a criminal record, that police officer who's looking at that rap sheet is going to be like, oh, let me see if there's something else that I could do to, maybe I'm missing something. I'm going to take a closer look, a harder look at this person than I would somebody else who doesn't have a criminal record. Yeah.
We're not gonna have a show the Christmas week, so I'm going to give you a break. I guess.
We will miss you a whole lot.
So we will miss everyone a whole lot. I just want to give people a break, and we'll take a deep breath. We'll come back to the show here on the 30th, right before New Year's Eve. So unless you're going on vacation, unless you're traveling, and how was the family? Are you good? Is everyone good? All the kids are good? Your husband's good?
Oh yes, the family's doing well. Thank you. We've been keeping safe and healthy. So, oh yeah, my daughter got her first acceptance to a college, so we've been celebrating. Yeah.
Oh, good. Are you gonna say? Is it a secret, or does she need security?
Well, I don't know if she wants me to say. She's very private.
Okay.
Okay.
But
she was happy. This is one of the ones that she wanted a yes from. So yay.
Well, congratulations, mom and dad, because it is an important feat for mom and dad. It really is. I mean, I know kids think they did such everything. We're like, you have no idea what we've been going through. And now we gotta look at this FAFSA thing, and then you gotta fill it out. Oh my God.
Oh my goodness, Dad. Oh.
I am a FAFSA pro by having my 9 children, so I am very good at FAFSA. So, but God bless, congratulations, and I will talk to you sooner than later. And thank you so much, Marylin. And please give your information if people want to contact you to get help with their stuff.
Okay, well, my phone number is 301-279-9020. Again, it's 301-279-9020. And my email address is mpierrelaw@gmail.com. That's MPIERRELAW@gmail.com.
So 9020, right?
9020. 301-279-9020.
Putting it into the YouTube link, and this way for Marylin.
Yeah, it's been fun. I mean, this year has really shown us who we are. It really shown us who we are. Yeah, and some of us have met and have even exceeded expectations, and some of us have come lacking in some areas, but there's still hope that we could improve in those areas.
So thank you, Marylin. I will talk to you later. You have a good evening, and give my blessings to everyone, please.
Thank you. You too, Dr. Dyer. It's a pleasure. And happy whatever it is that you celebrate, whether it's a Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, joyous Kwanzaa.
Thank you.
Happy Boxing Day.
Yeah, thank you. It's important. Thank you.